Imagine waking up one morning to find that your life savings are worthless. Your paycheck can't buy bread. Your country's currency has collapsed overnight. It sounds like a distant tragedy, something that happens in unstable nations far away. But the truth is, every modern financial system, no matter how powerful, stands on the same fragile foundation: belief. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? Because the story you are about to hear isn't just about money. It's about every one of us. For 300 years, humanity has been rewriting the definition of value. From gold to paper to digital code, each transformation brought convenience, but also control. And each shift came with a hidden cost. Let's go back to the beginning. Long before banks, before the dollar, before credit cards. For most of human history, there was no such thing as money the way we think of it. People bartered, grain for salt, cattle for tools, labor for shelter. But barter was slow and unreliable. You couldn't carry a herd of cows to the next village to buy bread. Then came gold. Gold was rare, durable, and beautiful. It didn't rust, didn't decay, and couldn't be easily faked. Ancient civilizations, from Egypt to Greece to Rome, used it to measure wealth. The Romans even stamped their emperors' faces on golden coins, declaring their power to the world. Gold was more than metal. It was trust you could hold in your hand. For over 2,000 years, gold defined wealth and stability. Kings stored it, merchants traded it, and wars were fought over it. But gold also had a weakness. It was physical. You could steal it, lose it, or sink with it in a storm. As trade expanded in the 1600s, merchants began looking for a better way. They started storing gold with goldsmiths, who in return issued handwritten receipts promising the gold's safe return. These receipts were lighter, safer, and easier to trade. Soon, people realized they didn't need to carry gold at all. They could just trade the paper. That's how paper money was born, not by invention, but by necessity. It began as a promise. This note represents real gold. And as long as people believed that promise, the paper was as good as gold itself. But the moment trust breaks, the illusion collapses. By the 18th century, paper money spread across Europe. The Bank of England, founded in 1694, began issuing standardized banknotes. The idea was revolutionary. You could trade paper backed by gold reserves held in the bank. It created liquidity, credit, and the rise of modern finance. Yet behind the innovation was a dangerous temptation: the power to create money out of thin air. As governments discovered how easy it was to print money, they began issuing more notes than they had gold to back them. At first, nobody noticed. Then wars came, expensive, devastating wars, and the illusion began to crack. During the Napoleonic Wars, Britain suspended gold convertibility entirely. Inflation surged. But people kept using the paper because they had no choice. Trust had shifted from metal to the government's word. That trust would be tested again and again. In 1914, World War I broke the last remnants of the old financial world. To pay for war, nations printed massive amounts of currency. When soldiers returned home, their savings were gone. In Germany, hyperinflation turned life savings into wallpaper. And yet, even after disaster, the system adapted. In 1944, at a quiet resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, the world's leaders met to design a new financial order. The agreement was simple. Every major currency would be pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar would be backed by gold at $35 per ounce. It made sense. The United States held nearly 3/4 of the world's gold reserves after the war. For a while, it worked beautifully. Global trade flourished. The dollar became the new global anchor. But just like before, faith began to outrun reality. By the 1960s, the U.S. was spending heavily on the Vietnam War and social programs. Dollars flowed across the world faster than gold could support them. France, under Charles de Gaulle, began demanding gold in exchange for dollars, and ships literally carried tons of gold back across the Atlantic. By 1971, America's vaults were draining. So President Richard Nixon went on live television and made history. He said, "The United States will suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold." With those words, 4,000 years of monetary tradition ended. The dollar was no longer tied to gold. It was tied to nothing. From that moment on, money became what governments said it was, backed not by metal, but by trust alone. The 1970s unleashed chaos. Inflation soared. Oil prices tripled. People began to realize the money in their pockets could lose value overnight. But something unexpected happened. Instead of collapsing, the system adapted again. The dollar survived not because it was backed by gold, but because it was backed by oil, by trade, and by global influence. The petrodollar system was born as oil-producing nations agreed to price oil in US dollars. Every country that needed oil needed dollars. This turned the dollar into the world's reserve currency, and the printing presses roared back to life. Credit cards spread, banks multiplied, governments borrowed endlessly. Money became a concept, a flowing river of promises, loans, and digits. But this new paper system came with hidden dangers. Debt grew faster than productivity. Every crisis was met with more money printing, more stimulus, more quantitative easing. By the 1990s, physical cash was already becoming obsolete. Computers replaced ledgers. Debit cards replaced banknotes. The next evolution had begun: digital money. When you pay online, no coins change hands, no bills exchange fingers. It's data. Bits of information moving across a network. Today, over 92% of the world's money exists only in digital form. It's not printed, it's programmed. That makes transactions fast, but it also makes control easier than ever before. Then came 2008. The financial crisis shattered faith in the system once again. Major banks collapsed. People realized that money in their accounts could vanish in a market crash. And out of that chaos, something new emerged: Bitcoin. An anonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, proposed a decentralized currency that no government could print, freeze, or control. A digital form of gold, limited, transparent, and independent. Bitcoin was a reaction to everything the old system had become. For the first time in centuries, money wasn't backed by promises. It was backed by code. But governments never surrender power easily. While Bitcoin inspired millions, central banks quietly began developing their own digital currencies, CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies. Unlike crypto, CBDCs are fully controlled. Every transaction can be tracked, every account monitored, every purchase approved or denied with a single command. They promise convenience and security, but also introduce the most powerful financial control system ever imagined. Imagine a world where your salary is digital, but expires if you don't spend it fast enough. Where donations to the wrong cause freeze your account. Where financial behavior replaces freedom. It's not science fiction. It's being tested today, in China, in Europe, and soon perhaps everywhere. We've entered the final stage of money's evolution, from tangible gold, to symbolic paper, to invisible code. Each stage has made money faster, lighter, easier, but also more abstract, less personal, and more controlled. Gold was heavy, but honest. Paper was light, but corruptible. Digital is efficient, but programmable. And programmable money can be rewritten. We've seen this pattern before. Every time money detaches from something real, collapse follows. Rome debased its silver coins and fell. Revolutionary France printed assignats until bread cost a fortune. Weimar Germany printed so much that children played with stacks of marks. Every empire believes it's immune. None are. Today the illusion is digital, not paper, but it's still an illusion. Trillions of dollars, euros, and yen exist as numbers on screens. And if trust in those numbers fails, the fall could be faster than any before. That's why, even in this age of code and AI, people are buying gold again. Because deep down, humanity still trusts what it can touch. Maybe that's why we're also turning to Bitcoin, to rebuild that ancient connection between value and truth. But whether the next system is crypto, CBDCs, or something else entirely, The lesson of history remains the same. Money is never stable. It's always evolving, always changing hands. And each transformation decides who holds power next. 300 years ago, the rich held vaults of gold. Then they held printing presses. Now they hold algorithms. So where does that leave us? We're living through the fourth great transformation of money. Gold made us dream of permanence. Paper made us believe in promises. Digital made us believe in code. And maybe, just maybe, the next version will make us question everything. Because in the end, money has always been a story we agree to believe, a story written not in metal or paper, but in trust. And when that trust fades, the story ends. The question isn't how much money you have. It is how much faith you are willing to place in something that isn't real. Gold was the past. Paper was the bridge. Digital is the present. But the future of money? That's a question no one, not even history, can yet answer. If this opened your eyes, hit like, and share it before the system decides your attention belongs somewhere else. The future of money is changing fast, and the only real currency is awareness.